don't need to learn like you did what you do. They have it already in their DNA. They only need a catastrophe to whip them in the right direction. And now, having met up with other kids, having met up with other people, they tend to build even much more problematic traits. And you wonder, are my children bewitched? No, you bewitched them by what you are. Are we okay on that one? So they become exactly who we are. In Moab, the children of Elimelech became natives of the land by also getting married to the natives of the land. But when they all died, there are three widows. One of them decides, since it's been rough, I'll go back home. But Ruth remains. And Ruth just simply says to Naomi, your God will be my God. Good traits are not only seen within people of God. Can I say it again? Good traits are not only seen within the people of God. This entire week we've been struggling with Galatians chapter 5 verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit, all right, is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, and stuff like that. And then yesterday, the thought of faithfulness, which we are presenting in this online thing, the issue of faithfulness is that we find Abraham faithful even before he had a covenant with God. In actual sense, that is what warranted him to be qualified to be the father of faith. In other words, I'm just simply letting the church know that good people exist even without you. They exist not even only in your church, because the most dreadful of people are Christians, and some of them you are seated next to them. The most difficult of people to deal with, all right, are Christians. So I sat at this professor's feet to learn, all right, and he tells of his experience of when he went to these Arab countries and he got to a hotel there. He wanted to deposit the cash and some stuff at the reception there. And then they say to him, just leave it in the room. I was like, what if it gets stolen? They were like, no, it's not a Christian hotel. We are Muslims here, you know. So some good traits are not always found within people who profess to be Christians, all right? There are people who are also faithful to the latter, and they are not Christians, and they don't go and subscribe to your own God. They live life without your God, but they still exist, all right? And that gets to a point of showing you the faithfulness of God. It far supersedes what you understood and what you think you understand, all right? It goes beyond what you can fathom. Because even those who care less about him, God is still faithful to them. And Ruth says, your God shall be my God. I'll go with you wherever you want me to go. I'll be with your people. And look at what happened when they got back home. All right? She wanted to go pick up some ears of corn, send back to the house. And Naomi tells her, you cannot go there. All right? As a mother, she knows her own people. Like, you cannot go there as a foreigner. You cannot go there being who you are. You are a Moabite. You can't reach there. All right? But in case you do go to this people. Go this way, because she wants her to avoid the holy and blessed people of God. The very people who are said to be the righteous. All right? That he goes and then picks up some corn. I saw it at home, all right, some years back. I saw it at home. Those who had no substance, all right, they don't have big fields to go plow. They generally wait for the harvest. And then the rule of the land is that when you break off some corn there and you're harvesting, whatever falls to the ground, leave it alone, all right? So that those that shall come after the harvest can have something to also pick up and go feed themselves. So it was kind of like a similar example we find even in the story of Ruth. Gets to this farm, starts picking up from the harvesters behind them, not with them. All right, to show you how impoverished they were, right in the presence of their own people when they had returned home. All right, when they were in Moab, life was not that utterly bad. How do you know? How do we know that? Because the sons got married in Moab. All right, but when they returned back home, there was no substance, to a point they had to be beggars in the house of bread. They started picking up those ears of corn, and then the guy who owned the field itself saw this woman and asks a question: who is that Nyabo? Who is that woman? All right, it will be weird if the story is played out in Luganda. I try to mimic Bagandas generally, the annunciation, and I find it rough. All right, Kankati, so it becomes rough on the tongue. I can't. I told you I tried to eat the food, I still failed. So this guy says to his own people, who is that one? All right, being identified within a foreign land itself. Now here is the catch about this guy. This guy also is a offspring to Rahab. Hello? He's an offspring to Rahab. Hey, Rahab is that profligate who used to stay in the walls of Jericho. So he himself understood what it took and what it meant to be a foreigner in strange lands. All right? So he identifies something similar to himself and asks about that. And the same guy got married to Ruth. When they got married to Ruth, they had children. And he himself became a kinsman redeemer to Naomi. Because where they used to pick corn, now they owned the field itself. Isn't it amazing how God works? Isn't it amazing how that God can come to a point where he uses the most foulest of experience to give you the best of experiences ever? Isn't it amazing how God moves beyond his way to provide for your needs, to provide for anything that you needed before you even uttered a prayer? Isn't it amazing, ladies and gentlemen, how God pushes through life itself? In other words, this one, I need to give it to you before I forget. This pastor preached from South Africa. Well, he's Zimbabwean, but resides, I think, most of his time in South Africa. So he preaches and he leaves impresses this thought on my head. I want to share with you today. And he just simply said, you know how words never die? Because you cannot hear the word or words does not necessarily mean that the words are done. They only faded into decibels you can't hear, and they disappear into the quantum realm. And he argued by submitting that things in the quantum space create things in the material space. All right? In that you would speak and whisper a prayer in the absence of your enemies or even your own friends. But God answers it in the presence of them. All right? You are not there when they are not there when you prayed. But the prayer goes on to a different location. And God answers it differently, all right, at a different place from where you are. In other words, what we speak creates much more than we thought it does. Let me simply say it this way also, in that when we speak words, all right, when we speak words, we get to a point whereby even in our absence, the words still have efficacy to change stuff even in your absence. Prayers do not die. When you phase out in life, your prayers remain. And they still cause change even in your absence. All right? Because the whole intention of prayer is to reach the ear of God. And if God does not forget, Therefore, humanity is immortalized in prayer. All right? And hence, beloved, what we live out in life, or what life tends to submit to us, we live in this experience of life blissfully, not because we are able to change anything, but because there is a God who is able to do it for us. Okay? We live in a world where we don't do anything, but God does it even in your absence. Why? Because even when you don't worship him, he still remains to be God. Even when you keep quiet in church and you don't say amen when the pastor preaches, he still remains to be God, you know. So let's conclude on this thought. It's almost one. Let's conclude on this thought. Boaz and this guy and Ruth get married, all right? They have descendants, and their children go on to get to a point where they had David. And David, through his lineage, arguably so anyway, is the one whom Christ comes through. Okay? In other words, Christ has a tendency of using the useless to bring out the greatness and the best in our life. I don't know what we go through and what life experiences we have, but I'm definitely assured of the fact that in every experience that we have, in every experience that we share, the ultimate goal is to be better on the upper end. All right? We just have to stick on and remain a little bit in God because of who he is and what he is doing currently in your life. He may not have probably answered your prayer today, but hold on, beloved, because he is in the business of making you ready for the answered prayer. All right? And I want to submit also that when he definitely gets to answer your prayer, you'll get to a point of realizing why he delayed to answer the prayer you submitted ages ago. 3 texts, then I sit down. Text number 1, found in the book of Psalms 118. All right? Psalms 118, verse number 8. In case you forget everything, this one is the middle verse in the Bible. Now, just tell them, wake up. He's concluding. All right? So, Psalms 118, verse number 8, the middle verse in the Bible. It just simply says, it's better to trust in the Lord than to lay confidence in man. All right? And we ask David as to why do you submit such? All right? Why do you go on to submit such to him? Psalms 121, verse number 4, if I'm not mistaken, the conclusive part says, because he that watches over Israel never slumbers, nor does he sleep. All right? The most beautiful text I love today is found in Psalms 125, verse number 1. It just simply says, and they that trust upon the Lord shall be like Mount Zion, never to be moved, but abideth forever. Here is what happened on that text that I also got to see this week. Well, kind of 2 days ago. Mount Zion, all right, just Jerusalem in totality, is said to be the city of David, all right? Because where they settled the Israelite community was actually in Jericho. We get to know of Jerusalem because of David. And therefore, Jerusalem is the city of David. And in Jerusalem, he built his own people. Then he just simply said, how can I be staying in this house where I stay in a house built up of cedar, in its all goodness, and my God stays in a tent? Then he goes on to Mount Zion and establishes Mount Zion as the residence of God, as they built up a temple in Zion. Are you listening, beloved? He establishes Mount Zion as the residence of God.